Hello, creative presentation class. Hope everybody's doing good. So today, this is going to be my video on my favorite piece of media. So one of my favorite pieces of media that I'm going to be telling you about today is In Time with Justin Timberlake. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I definitely suggest watching it. So the movie kind of takes place in an alternate future that could be possible. I feel like it's kind of the way we're going. But anyway, to get into it, basically it's Justin Timberlake. He's the main character, and time is money, and money is on your arm, and you have a time limit, and when it runs out, you die. So basically, him and his mom, they live in the ghetto, and they always live with less than a day left. So they're never promised tomorrow. They kind of have to make money to have tomorrow, and they're just kind of always hustling, which is one of the reasons I like the movie so much. So, but what ends up happening is a ton of events where this guy comes into a bar. He's got 100 years on his arm, and everybody sees it. So basically, he's not safe. He's in a bad place with 100 years on his arm. So everyone's already kind of looking at him, wondering why he's there. It's kind of like he has a death wish. So what ends up happening is some bad guys come into the bar. Everyone kind of floods out. Justin Timberlake's friend and him are running out the back, and he's like, "Let's go, Justin." And he's like, "You know what? No, they're gonna kill this guy. Like, I gotta help him." And he's like, "You're crazy. They're gonna kill him." So what ends up happening, he stays back and he saves the guy. They end up evading to a little warehouse, and they end up spending the night there. Throughout the night, they have a really deep talk, and then they both go to sleep. So the time is transferable by grabbing each other's arms. So Justin Timberlake falls asleep first, and this guy gives him his 100 years. So Justin Timberlake wakes up, he sees his arm, he sees the time, he's like, "Oh my gosh," and the guy's not there. He ends up finding the guy, and he's sitting on the edge of a bridge, and he goes to run up and save him and give him some of his time back so he doesn't die, and, probably ask him questions, whatever the next, like we all would. So as he runs up to him, he dies because he ran out of time and he falls off the bridge. The guy had lived for so long, he was so rich, he didn't want to do it anymore, which is why he was in the bar, which is why he gave Justin Timberlake the time, all of the next. So a camera ends up seeing him and kind of pleads him as guilty because they thought he stole the time, he did something to him. So what ends up happening is Justin Timberlake then goes to find his mom. As soon as he finds his mom and he's trying to give her the time, she actually runs out of time beforehand and dies. So then, interesting plot change in the movie. Justin Timberlake kind of goes on this journey of what he's going to do with this newfound time to make the world a better place. So he wants to break this system. He wants to steal time from the rich and give it to the poor. He wants to balance out the system. So he ends up going up through the grids into the nicer parts of town and the high class areas, and he gets all the way to the most prestigious city. He ends up there. He goes to somebody's house that's kind of very rich. He's got a little party event going on. Everyone's kind of gambling. He knew how to gamble from his dad. So what ends up happening is he gambles those 100 years of time and he gets more. And then that's kind of when the story starts of him trying to figure out how he can kind of multiply his time to have enough to give away, which is never really going to happen for everybody back home, in those impoverished areas to all have enough. So he's still looking for a way to beat the system, and he kind of finally figures one out. So the same gentleman's house that he ends up at, he ends up kidnapping his daughter, and they kind of have a real connection. So they end up planning a heist and stealing 1,000,000 years of time out of her dad's safe. And after they do this, they have a lot of people on them. It's now a journey to get back to where he came from, to disperse the time, to divide it between everybody. So he gets back kind of just in the nick of time. He's got cops, he's got other people on his tail. There's a little girl that he trusts a lot back home, and he ends up finding her, and he can't make it to the bank where in the impoverished area, they give out time through like kind of like a bank. It's almost like a public housing or not a public housing. It's almost like a free housing situation. It's like there's something good for free for the people that need it, but there's not enough to go around, so it's very first come first serve. So he ends up giving the time to the little girl. She gets the time and puts the million years in this little bank thing with the guy who runs it. So the guy who runs it flips a sign on. They got time for everybody, and everyone ends up getting their time. And then they're actually promised tomorrow. There's not people dropping dead in the streets anymore. And then where the movie kind of ends is the system was finally broken because he fixed that imbalance with this guy who has more than enough time on his wrist and a million years of time in a safe that he doesn't even need, and gives it to the people that aren't promised tomorrow, that are working minimum wage, trying to just have time to get day in and day out. So it's amazing because he ends up breaking the system, and after that, the movie kind of ends on the footnote of him and this girl are still vigilantes, and they're still going around robbing banks and stuff for time from the rich and dispersing it and keeping that balance and making it more and more how it should be. So I just love this piece of media because it's something that I see could happen in the future, especially if we continue to get more digital with money, more computerized, more credit cards. I actually heard a rumor that years in the future, our kids are just supposed to end up having a chip implanted in their arm in birth, which is basically going to be a credit card linked to their social security number. So it's kind of like everything you ever make would just be directly deposited to that, and that would kind of be it. So, I mean, the only difference being is I don't think it would physically display. But if it did, then if I walk into an impoverished area with $1 million in my bank account, I'm not going to make it out safe. People are going to know what I have and they're going to want to take it. So I just love the movie. I think it really puts a perspective on things, and it really kind of makes you think. And I just really liked it because he broke the system, as I feel like a lot of us want to, and he finally brought balance to the system in that movie that they created. So, but that's it. Thank you guys for listening.